Star Trek, Star Wars, Marvel, DC, Dungeons and Dragons, all these various brands that have grown kind of antagonistic with their own audiences in the last few years. You know, YouTube commentators for quite some time now have been blaming factors such as, the onrushing warriors of social justice, diversity initiatives, left-wing politics, all the usual suspects, that these gigantic mega corporations are all secret satanic communists. All that kind of noise we've been hearing and talking about for some time. Is that all really the case? I can't help but notice that there's a common factor that all these brands that I had just mentioned, and others in similar positions, the thing that they actually all have in common is that the people currently owning and running the fucking things have nothing at all to do with the people who actually created any of this shit. And they purchased these things. And when they purchased them, it wasn't, from their angle, they're getting hold of brand recognition so that they have a product that people will buy. And to some degree, there has to be some sort of like conscious, desire to have that built-in audience. However, over time, one could learn to hate that audience. That audience comes with all sorts of baggage and expectations that you have no idea about when you're buying into the thing in the first place. This being a gaming channel, Wizards of the Coast and its relationship with D&D and D&D's people obviously should spring to mind. But I would also heavily include stuff like how Star Trek has become in the years since Bad Robot and its derivative company, Secret Hideout, have taken over the running and management of Star Trek. Star Wars and Marvel both being bought up by Disney. And, the dictates that we've all heard about how Marvel, actively, wants to get rid of the old audience and usher in a new one and all that kind of stuff. All of it, it always seems to be from companies that, didn't actually make these things themselves. And so, Star Wars, did Disney really consider the fact that they were buying a nascent emerging religion when they bought Star Wars? Or did they just think that they're going to be able to put out some thoughtless, happy-go-lucky movies with flashing swords? People get married with Star Wars themed weddings. People take that shit way too seriously, and they should have been more considerate about what exactly it was that they were buying, because either they're snuffing out something that was kind of in its infancy in terms of a cultural phenomenon, what Star Wars could have been in human memory in a few centuries, kind of a thing. But now that's been interfered with Disney, that's watered down the waters, so to say, with inferior product and not carrying that core, whatever mystic thread it was that George Lucas had a grasp on, that was presented in these movies that caught people in the way that it had. Disney didn't really consider, what the hell they were buying when they bought Star Wars. It was more than a brand at that point. And the way that Star Trek, if Star Trek is not just a show about the future, that show has been setting the benchmark for human expectations for what the future is supposed to be like. And so you shouldn't just take hold of that and write it willy-nilly and play too much with the formula, because you're communicating all sorts of things to people whether you realize it or not. And I don't know, that's just something to think about with all these brands. All the ones that are antagonistic with their fans are brands that are operated by people who do not create the IP in question. If there's an exception to that, I'd love to hear it.